Hi, everyone, and welcome to High Powered Insights with Proterra. My name is Marissa Kiesler, and today, for our second episode ever, I am joined by Lea Carter, and I will let Lea, if you'll introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Leah. I work in environmental health and safety here at Proterra, and the holidays are my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk about holiday safety.
Awesome. So I'm so excited because at Proterra, safety is honestly, it is our standard for everything that we do. And safety doesn't just mean that we're building safe, reliable, rugged battery packs that we sell. We actually care about safety at home. We care about safety in our facility. We care about safety in all aspects of life. So today we want to talk to you guys about some kind of holiday safety tips and tricks, right? So maybe first, Lea, we'll start with maybe the most obvious one. Why are cooking fires more common during the holidays than any time of year?
I think it's because people get distracted more. There's just a lot going on at the holidays. You've got football games, you've got visitors coming over, you've got stuff on TV, you want to watch parades and things like that. So it's easy just to get distracted and think you're going to walk away for just a minute. And it ends up being longer than that. And all of a sudden something's burning in the kitchen.
Yep.
So the best thing to do is just never leave anything unattended. And if you do have to step away, to just turn it off.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. It's really easy to get distracted, especially I think when there's like kids around.
Yes.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about how to handle like kid distractions. And I know like a lot of like my little cousins, they want to help in the kitchen. So how do you kind of handle that?
Yeah, I think the most important things with kids and even pets is to kind of try to keep them out of the kitchen if you can, by letting a relative or a responsible adult or even a responsible older kid give them an activity and just help kind of watch them. If they really want to help in the kitchen, try to give them a kid appropriate task that's not close to the burners, cooking on the stove, or with knives or anything like that they could get injured using.
Okay, yeah, that's some good advice. What are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when cooking a turkey or frying a turkey? Because we all know we eat so much turkey this time of year, and there's so many ways to prepare it, and you hear some horror stories. So maybe some advice on turkeys.
Yeah, I've actually never had a fried turkey, so I would love to try one, but they're definitely at risk for fires is the big thing with frying turkeys. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that you cannot do it inside, and you also can't do it near a building or near your garage. So sometimes people set them up too close to their garage, or they set them up on their deck, which is wood usually, and also overfilling the fryer with oil, because you need to account for when you put the turkey in, it's going to take up space, and the hot oil will overflow. The other thing is setting it up on stable ground so it doesn't tip over or get knocked over. Keeping kids and pets out of the area is also really important. And then one that I think people don't think of is making sure that your turkey is completely thawed out, and that you also pat it dry before you put it into the oil, because if you've ever added oil to hot water in a skillet on the stove, how the oil reacts and it splashes and you can get burnt. That same thing can happen with a turkey fryer, except there is a lot of oil in the turkey fryer when that is happening. So it is going to cause a violent reaction. You can get burned, it can splash and start a fire. So those are just some things to keep in mind to have a safe, delicious turkey frying experience.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'd ever really thought about that. I definitely have heard horror stories of people like trying to do it like in their garage because it maybe is like cold and they don't want to like venture outside too much, and like you just hear absolute like horror stories with that. And definitely like even the deck and like having a safe footing is really important.
Yes.
I probably will also stick to baking the turkey.
It's
a much easier process, but I know a lot of people do the fried turkey, so it's something that's really important to talk about.
Yes, it is.
So maybe kind of like pairing on that, what should you do if you do have some kind of fire or like a grease fire or something that starts either maybe outdoors, and then also like even if you have like an indoor fire that starts?
Right. So one of the best things you can do for controlling that is get a fire extinguisher for your kitchen if you do not already have one. And even if you already have one, check it and make sure that it is still good and that it still has the pressure that it needs in it. If you don't have one, you can pick them up at the home store.
Okay.
Relatively inexpensive. So having that handy, if you do not have a fire extinguisher on hand, like we just discussed, water reacts really violently to grease, hot grease. So never throw water on a grease fire. You can use a lid to cover the fire and kind of smother it out. Or you can also put baking soda on it. That kind of acts as the same as the chemical inside of the fire extinguisher. So of course you don't want to have that get out of control. So if you do those things and it doesn't put the fire out quickly, make sure you get yourself and your family to safety, and call 911.
Okay. That's interesting. Baking soda. Who would have thought? I feel like I should know that. My cousin is a fire chief, and I feel like he's probably told me this before, and I probably didn't pay attention, which I really should. But that's so interesting. I've never thought about baking soda to help put out a grease fire. So interesting.
Yeah, I've actually had to use that
Oh
before. When I was much younger, I had a small fire on the stove, and
that's so scary.
Yes, and the lady that I was with was throw baking soda on it. So
wow.
Yes.
Man, okay. Well, I'm going to have to start telling other people about that because I feel like that's probably not commonly well known. One of the most common things that we're doing this time of year is we're decorating. We've got lots of people over. We're setting up our house for different holidays. So maybe what's some of the most common decorating injuries that you see on a regular basis?
I think falls for sure, because people are trying to hang lights up. They're trying to hang wreaths up at heights, whether inside or outside, and they're using ladders and chairs to do that, and maybe not always have the right tool for the job.
That is true. I do feel like I'm probably guilty of that. When I put my tree up, I usually am grabbing like whatever is closest just to try to get the bow on top, and I have been known to like try to just tip. I'm really short. I'm like a solid 5'3" on like a good day. And so I've definitely seen myself like trying to pull the tree towards me to like get the bow, and definitely have had some like near misses. And I should just take the time to actually get the step ladder out to do it, because it's a lot better to be safe than to be sorry later on if something bad were to happen. Especially outside. I mean, it can be really dangerous, especially if you get to like looking at like things on the roof and things like that. I guess another thing would be maybe always have a buddy. Especially if you're doing something outdoors.
Yes. You should never decorate when you're home alone. Things can happen. I have a story personally where my dad was outside, and I'm from Illinois, so the winters get pretty cold. So it's very cold when you're decorating outside. And it was windy the day that he was up on the roof, and no one was home.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily he had his cell phone in his pocket, but he went up on the roof and the wind blew the ladder over, and he got stuck up on the roof in the cold wind.
Oh my gosh.
And so he had to call us to come home and put the ladder back up for him. But that's a situation that could have turned bad pretty quickly, because if he wouldn't have been dressed appropriately, he could have gotten hypothermia or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's terrifying. I definitely know that my dad tends to do the same thing. He doesn't want to be patient. So maybe another tip is to make sure that you're training your dad to be patient, because I have also seen my dad do things like that. And I'm like, why didn't you just wait till I got home, or it called me to help? So what are some things that you could recommend for using a ladder safely? Because the other thing that I see is we might get the ladder out, but I don't always feel like we're the safest when we use the ladder.
Yeah, so it is important to have a ladder that is right for the job. So whether you need an extension ladder if you're getting up on the roof, maybe a folding A-frame ladder is more appropriate for what you're doing, and checking it to make sure it's in good shape before you use it. It's not missing feet, or it's not cracked or broken or anything like that. I know people love to keep ladders around for 30, 40 years. Maybe it's time to get a new one.
Maybe a good Black Friday sale. You never know.
You're going to be at the home store picking up a fire extinguisher, pick up a new ladder. But also having the buddy system, making sure the ladder is appropriate for your weight, And also, like we just talked about, planning ahead too, of give yourself enough time. Don't rush through it. Make sure you have all the supplies you need before you get started.
Probably don't try to hang things and be on a ladder the same day that you have your holiday party.
Yes.
Because you want to make sure that you're not trying to do things in a rush and,
Right.
and forget your safety and get caught up in something in a bad situation.
Right.
So how can we help with people that are, for me, I know that I have a problem where my outlets are never in the right spot, right? So maybe some safety tips or things around extension cords and how to make that work when you're trying to put lights around your house on the outdoors maybe, and then even indoors, like you have all these extension cords maybe running around, and it, you know, at worst you have a little kid that like trips and falls on something. So how do we kind of deal with that mess?
Yeah, well, again, just like with the ladder, before you get anything out, because sometimes these things maybe have been tucked away for a long time and you haven't used them, is to check them, make sure, especially with electrical cords, that includes extension cords, Christmas lights, make sure that they're in good condition, especially if you've stored them like in your attic or in the garage or in a shed, because they could have been chewed on, they could have been damaged. So just give them a quick check over. If you see anything that's damaged or frayed, toss it, get new, add it to your shopping list. And then extension cords are okay to use if your outlets aren't in the right place, but if you're using them outdoors, make sure that they're rated for outdoor use. So check the tag on the extension cords. That goes for your Christmas lights too. So never cut those tags off, because next year when you get them out,
I'm guilty of that. I was sitting here like, where is that tag on my extension cord? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Right, because chances are, like, especially with your Christmas lights, you get them out next year, you're not going to remember what you bought for indoor, outdoor. So just always check that tag. If it says indoor, outdoor, you're good for either. If it says indoor only, then don't use it outdoors, because those lights aren't made to handle the elements of the outdoors, like the cold weather, moisture especially. So that can also contribute to electrical shock injuries and fires.
Okay. Interesting. What about what do you think about like timers and putting I mean, I know a lot of times like I will take and plug something into like an automatic like timer, something that's like connected to my phone. Any risk or anything associated with doing things like that?
I don't think so if you use it as it's designed and intended, but what you don't want to do is have extension cord plugged into extension cord, into your timer, into your wall. So you want to use it as it's intended, plug it directly into the wall, and try to avoid the daisy chaining as much as you can.
Okay, so avoid the daisy chaining, which note self, because I think I probably did that a few times last year myself, which is not good, right? But we live and we learn, and we adapt and we change, and we get better. So maybe too, I know a lot of people travel a ton for the holidays, right? So maybe we can talk a little bit about holiday travel. What are some of the simple steps that we can take to make sure that we are safe, whether we're traveling by road or even if we are going somewhere by air?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for planning your travel is, again, a common theme: plan ahead. Make sure you know where you're going, when you're going, check your routes, check the weather as well, so you know what you're going to encounter, especially if you're driving, so that you can get your car prepared, you know what kind of road conditions, if you need to plan extra travel time. Another piece of advice is to, especially if you're traveling in cold weather, is to get your car tuned up. So if you have someone handy, they can do it, or take it into the shop and have your tire pressure checked, have your fluids checked, have your oil changed, all of those things, because the last thing you want to add to your holiday stress is vehicle problems.
And it never fails. If you have a trip planned, that is when something will go wrong. For me, it's like I could go forever and I never have a light come on in my car. And it's like the minute I have like a trip planned, something will come on and I have to go get something fixed, or my tire goes flat or something. And you're like, why is it always when we have a trip, something goes wrong? Maybe this actually leads to a good question around what do you think about having emergency kits? So one thing that when I got a car, when I, turned 15 and started driving on my own, my dad's like, you have to have an emergency kit. And something I always remember, even growing up, like we were always like in my mom's car and we always had to figure out where the emergency kit went. Like we were packing the car and you're like, oh, this thing's in the way. And it's like, it's really not. And you better always have one.
Yes.
So maybe some thoughts on emergency kits and what you should have in your emergency kit.
Yeah, so emergency kits are great. Always have them in your car, have them at home too. But when it comes to holiday travel, because the weather is colder, especially depending on where you live, so in that kit, you want to have some warm clothing. If you get stranded, it's going to get cold in your vehicle because you're not going to be able to run the heat. So bring some extra warm clothing or warm blankets. Also, some food and water, like things that you don't have to heat up. So, crackers, protein bars, things like that. Water and hydrating fluids as well.
Okay.
And also it's good to have some car supplies. Maybe you need to, if your car uses oil, maybe you want to pack things like that. Tire change tools, those types of things that you may need for your vehicle to get yourself back on the road.
Okay. Yes, it is kind of funny. I feel like a lot of my friends will call me and they're like, I know you have jumper cables in your car.
Yes.
And you're like, you're the one person that always has the full kit, which always used to be one of like, you're like, oh, it's so weird. Why does everyone think I'm that person? But now it's like, as an adult, I'm like, I'm actually prepared. Like, why are you guys not prepared? So I think it is really important to have something in your car. Just, you never want to have the worst case scenario happen, but you hope that you can be prepared if the worst case scenario does happen.
Yeah, and nowadays, and these also make great holiday gifts.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Black Friday again.
Yes, you can get the battery packs that have the jumper cables in them. They have ports to charge your phone because if you have an emergency situation, you don't want your phone to go dead. So that's another great thing to have in your kit. A lot of them have flashlights on them. So again, another emergency kit item, and it's all combined right there in one. And they're readily available, at the home store, Amazon, whatever.
I'm kind of thinking that we should put together a shopping list.
We should.
And I will share that with you guys as well, because we've talked about all this stuff and it would be kind of fun to put together maybe like links and show people like,
definitely.
This is where you can find a fire extinguisher. This is where you can find even maybe like a home fire blanket, and this is where you can find emergency kits. Like, I think that could be really good just to have, because I know for me, as we're talking, I'm like, I feel like I need to probably check my fire extinguisher. And I should probably double check my emergency kit that has been in my car for a while. So maybe if you could give one piece of advice around the holidays, or like, what's your like number one safety tip for the holidays, what would that be?
I think the holidays are stressful enough. There's enough going on with family coming. We all know how stressful that can be sometimes. Trying to cook, trying to gift shop. There's just enough going on. So as we've talked about, I think my biggest piece of advice that will just help keep everything safe and happy is planning ahead and giving yourself the time you need.
Yep. Oh man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one.
It is.
There. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for hanging out with me and talking through some holiday safety tips and tricks. And we hope to see you guys again on our next episode of High Powered Insights.